Long ago, in the heart of a bustling village in Nigeria, there lived a young prince named Bulma. Known for his captivating looks, wealth, and the finest Agbada anyone had ever seen, Prince Bulma was admired and envied by all. However, his charm was often overshadowed by his overwhelming pride, which grew each day with the constant praise he received. Prince Bulma was not merely proud, he was haughty. He looked down upon anyone he deemed beneath him and refused to acknowledge the value of those he considered less fortunate. Despite his father's warnings and the elder council's advice to practice humility, Bulma paid them no heed. He believed that his royal blood and exquisite Agbadas placed him above everyone else in the village. One fateful day, Prince Bulma strutted through the village market. He wore his most elaborate Agbada, a garment so grand it seemed to shimmer with every color of the rainbow. The Agbada's long, flowing sleeves were embroidered with golden threads, and the hems were decorated with intricate beadwork that glittered in the sun. The villagers stopped what they were doing, gazing in admiration as Bulma passed by. He savored their awe, smiling with a hint of arrogance. However, among the onlookers was an elderly woman named Mama Jola. She was well respected in the village for her wisdom and her deep understanding of ancient traditions, yet she dressed humbly and was easy to overlook. But Mama Jola was no ordinary elder. She was rumored to possess mystical powers, passed down through generations of her family. Seeing the prince walk through the market with such a disdainful attitude, Mama Jola decided it was time to teach him a lesson in humility. As Bulma passed her jewelry stall without so much as a glance, she raised her hand subtly and whispered a spell. Her voice was barely audible, but the words carried a weight and energy that went straight to the heart of the proud prince. Suddenly, Bulma felt an odd tingling sensation in his arms. He looked down in surprise, expecting to see his beautifully embroidered sleeves. Instead, he was horrified to see that they had started to sprout feathers. Colorful, iridescent feathers were growing out of his Agbada, blending seamlessly with its ornate designs, transforming his royal garment into wings. The prince's shock turned into panic as his hands began to morph, fingers shrinking and curling into claws. He staggered, trying to shake the feeling away, but it was no use. His face began to contort, and he could feel his mouth and nose reshaping into a beak. In his mind, he screamed, but the sound that escaped his lips was a loud, resounding crow, the cry of a rooster. The transformation was swift yet agonizing, as if each feather symbolized the pride being stripped away from him. Before he knew it, Prince Bulma was no longer a man but a magnificent rooster, with a plumage more vibrant than any Agbada he had ever worn. His crest was fiery red, his feathers a dazzling array of blues, greens, and golds. In his transformed state, he still retained his regal bearing, but he was trapped in the body of a bird, a symbol of vanity for all to see. The villagers gasped in awe and fear. Some whispered in hushed voices, while others stared in silence. The bustling marketplace came to a halt as everyone gazed at the prince who had become a rooster. Mama Jola stepped forward, her face calm but her eyes sharp with wisdom. "Prince Bulma," she called, her voice echoing through the silence, "pride and vanity have blinded you to the worth of others. Now, you will walk the earth as a creature of pride, a rooster, to remind you of the consequences of your arrogance." With a single nod, Mama Jola turned and disappeared into the crowd, leaving the transformed prince and the stunned villagers in her wake. Bulma, still adjusting to his new form, attempted to speak, to plead, but all that came out was another crow. He frantically flapped his wings, struggling to retain his dignity, but it was no use. He was now an animal, subject to the whims and whispers of the very people he had once scorned. As days passed, Bulma was forced to confront his new life. Stripped of his human form and royal status, he was left with only his pride and the lessons that each day as a rooster brought him. He wandered the village, watching the humble lives of the people he had once overlooked. He saw mothers caring for their children, farmers working tirelessly in their fields, merchants offering fair prices for their goods, and elders imparting wisdom to the young. Gradually, his heart softened. He began to understand the beauty of simplicity and the value of humility. Each dawn, as he crowed from the village rooftops, he thought not of himself, but of his fellow villagers and the lives they led. He began to realize that true nobility did not come from royal garments or titles, but from kindness, respect, and humility. One morning, as Bulma crowed at sunrise, he felt a warm glow surrounding him. The villagers gathered to watch as his form began to shimmer. Feathers melted away, claws retracted, and his beak softened back into lips. Before their eyes, Prince Bulma was restored to his human form. His agbada was gone, replaced with simple, unadorned clothes, but his expression was one of peace and gratitude. He turned to the villagers, bowing low. "I am no longer the prince I once was," he said humbly. "I have learned the value of each person here and the strength that comes from humility." From that day on, Prince Bulma became a beloved leader. His transformation had taught him compassion and humility, and he ruled with fairness, placing the welfare of his people above his pride. The tale of his transformation spread far and wide, a story of caution and redemption that would remind generations to come of the power of humility. And so, Prince Bulma's story became a cherished folktale, told in marketplaces and by firesides, reminding all who heard it of the strength in humility and the dangers of pride.